Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people. And Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny from Relentless and Unstoppable. We're about to bring you some nostalgia from the amazing franchise of The Lion King by Disney, as we have the director of The Lion King 1.5, Brad Raymond, with us. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing? How you doing, Doug? Good to be here.
We're glad to have you. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, give our followers a bit of what you're known for.
Well, I mean, I was the director of Lion King 1.5, and I worked at Disney for quite a while, and I was the director and the writer of the story of the Tinkerbell movie and Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue, and Pocahontas 2, the sequel, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2.
Yeah, those are great sequels, and they were, for those who don't know, they were direct-to-video sequels because Disney back then focused on the main classics and wanted to create sequels for everybody with the television animation studio, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they weren't released theatrically, but I think they would have been successful either way, everyone. So, yeah, Brad, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah. So you're out and living the dream in LA, I'm presuming?
Around LA, yep. I'm in Woodland Hills, which is about 45 minutes outside of LA.
Yeah, for sure. So, what got you into the film industry?
Well, I was always an artist. It was something that I always liked to draw when I was a kid. But then it was really when I wanted to get into football. My dad was a big football player, and I wanted to play football. But then there was this one day, I'll never forget it. My parents kind of forced my sisters and I to go to a movie as a family every month, right? So we have to not go out with our friends or whatever, and we have to go to this movie. So they brought us to E.T. And I did not want to go. I had no idea what E.T. was. No, it was the first run when it first came out. And it completely changed my life. I was completely fixated on it. And it was this feeling of magic I felt. I'd never felt that feeling of magic when you're watching something. And that was the moment that I changed direction. That movie inspired me. And it was I'll never forget it. That was the reason I got into wanting to make movies.
Got it. Was that the first movie you ever saw? Or
No,
no?
I mean, I had seen, I think the first movie I ever saw was actually The Black Stallion, which was also very, I love that movie. Still one of my favorite movies of all time. And it was great. There was, I mean, I love that movie, but it didn't have, the thing about Steven Spielberg is it's when he tells a story, he brings that magical element. And I studied his movies, ever since. as a kid, I wanted to see his movies, but then when I got older and I got into the industry, I started studying his films and started seeing some of the things that he did, and I realized that it was just the way he tells a story. There's nobody like him. Nobody has ever, like people have emulated him, but nobody has ever been able to capture that magic that he brings to the audience in his movies, especially E.T.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know that he was also the guy that conceived, although he was never directly involved, but he conceived of the classic DreamWorks movie, The Prince of Egypt?
No, I didn't know that. That's a good piece of trivia.
Yeah, that was the first movie I technically saw. However, I was like 6 months old at the time, so I obviously didn't remember any of it. And then my parents got it on DVD, and then after like 4 or 5 years, I started to watch it and know it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny that actually the very first movie I ever saw, and I don't remember it, like I don't remember the movie that well watching it, but it was in a drive-in theater. But I do remember the feeling I had, and I mean, I was so young, and it was Cinderella. And it was the first time that I fell in love. I was absolutely in love with Cinderella, but I had no idea she was an animated character. I just remember it. I must have been like 7 years old or even younger. It was like I barely remember it, but that was actually my first movie.
Yeah. You want to hear that moment in my life that was exactly the way you described?
Yes.
The Polar Express. When I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
that when I saw that movie in theaters in 2004, and we're coming on the 20th anniversary of it, it was
Wow.
not only the Christmas season, but I remember the intro where the boy goes up to the conductor and the conductor's like, "We're going to the North Pole, of course," or, and all that. And then the boy steps on the train and the music and everything, the soundtrack. When I saw that in theaters, I was like, holy cow, you
Yeah.
know? I was
Amazing.
like that, and I was like 6 years old at the time.
I love those moments. Those are the moments that shape, who we are, and those memories and those nostalgia. You just it's so funny. I was actually in the industry and working when that movie came out, so it's a different feeling. But when I've seen movies when you're a kid, especially when you're a kid, and you have that, you're still being shaped as a person. You're really young. Those are those moments that can really shape you. It's amazing. Movies have that kind of power.
Yeah. And movies like that are classics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how did you get your role in Disney
Wow, that's is as a director or just in general? Like, how did I get into Disney, or what is just
in
as a
general?
in general? Well, that was I went to I actually started working at Don Blue Studios. That was my first job. And it was my best friend Kevin O'Hara, who's now who still is a top animator at Pixar right now. But at the time, he was an assistant animator at Don Bluth, and I moved out here to try to make it get into the industry. And I did a test at Don Bluth Studios for an in-between test. If you're familiar with in-betweens, it's the little drawings in between each action. It's kind of filling in all those drawings. And I did the test, and it was really Kevin every day went in and asked them, "Did you look at Brad's test? Did you look at Brad's test?" And it was really Kevin who helped me get that job, because I'm sure they just wanted him to shut up, and they hired me. So that was my first job. And then I went on and worked in Ireland, where Don Blue Studios was that was their home office at the time. And when I came back from Ireland, my first job was doing storyboards at Disney for a show called Marsupilami. And it was a TV series of a character. It's from a French comic book, and he has a really long tail that he uses for things. And that was my first job at Disney.
Got it. That's pretty impressive. So, just curious, what was the reason that Disney set up their television studio out in Australia?
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia, saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Chee.